All right, it feels like the right time to do some exam revision. Now, music is much more than just getting a number in the exam, but you do have an exam coming up. So let's do a little bit of preparation. We're going to use the SCSA sample exam and work through that. And in this video, I'm just going to look at exam technique. Now, I think this is potentially the easiest way to get 5 or 10% more in an exam. So it might sound boring, but it's probably worth doing. Let's get into it. This is my little thing to try and remember what to do for every question. This is a process you should go through for every question, especially in a music exam. So first thing is to write down the time. With having to listen to stuff and look at scores, it's very easy to lose track of time. You've got about 1 minute per mark. So you'd write down what time you start every question. Next is to underline the key points. Obvious one, you probably will be doing that already. Narrow down the options. So can you remember what's in the syllabus and choose those syllabus points that can be really helpful, which we'll go through in a minute. And then finally, eliminate distractions, which means for me is writing stuff down on a scrap bit of paper. Don't try and remember everything you're trying to do. It's really hard to do that and also to read the question. Okay, let's give it a go in practice. Here's a question for you. So first thing we're going to do is write down the time. It is 11:30. Next thing, underline. Identify, so we're going to name something, we're not going to describe it. The ornament. And here's a great example of why we would underline, because it's saying the ornament in the accompaniment, which is going to be, you won't do that unless you read the question properly. And the texture, and it's worth 2 marks. Great, I've underlined. Next, I'm going to narrow the options. Now, if you can remember what's in the syllabus, that's super helpful. So you could make some little notes for yourself here. So doing eliminate and writing stuff down as well. So I know there's a trill, a glissando, a scoop, and a bend. There are my ornament options. And for texture, I've got monophonic, homophonic, and polyphonic. But if you're being super clever, you can actually narrow it down more than that, because they've already told you that there's an accompaniment. So the only one with an accompaniment is homophonic. So this is almost certainly going to be homophonic. Now you probably should listen to the excerpt first, but it's a pretty good bet, right? So that's an example of where it really matters to underline stuff. Now let's have a listen. Can I do that? How do I listen? All right. So hopefully you heard that was a trill. Done, 2 marks. Thank you very much. Let's try another one. Okay, here we go. We're going to start by writing down the time. It's 11:32, which is great because that last question took us exactly 2 minutes. Describe, so I've got to do a bit of an explanation. The melodic themes from the exposition are musically altered. Okay, and then I've got 4 marks. Now, for this question, I actually wouldn't do this question at all. Or maybe I'd do this at the end, but I probably wouldn't do it at this point. The reason being is that this is a really tough question. You've got to listen to the whole exposition, the whole of the development, sorry. You've got to find the score, you've got to find the listening device to get the headphones on, all that kind of stuff. You haven't analysed or even answered the question yet. Just listening to it's going to take you 3 or 4 minutes. So this question could very easily take you 10 minutes to do. So definitely I would leave this to the end. And you might only get 2 marks out of 4 anyway. So, because it's quite a difficult question. Now, if you are going to do it, then narrowing the options is really going to help you here. Because if I just get rid of this stuff I've put on here for a second, there's only a few ways that stuff is altered, which we know. So we could say like a modulation, then what do we got? Like an ostinato, some of the compositional devices, pedal point, augmentation, diminution, how else? Oh, inversion, maybe a tonality. So those are the kind of things we're looking for. So that can really help you now form an answer. So I'm not going to play you this one, but we will have a little look at the score. So if I do that. So this piece sounds something like this. pretty good. I won't do the whole thing, but that would be the start of the exposition. So then we'd hunt through the score for the rest of the exposition, or the end of the exposition. I'd have to listen to it probably to know where the end is, but there's some clues here because I've got the old repeat, which could just be a double bar line. It might have a rehearsal letter, something like that. You can see it sort of ending here. There's a sort of cadence there. So there's a lot of things indicating that's the end of a section. Okay, and then we go into the development section and we want to look at how it's differed. You may or may not be able to remember from the previous slide that we were in the key of G major before. Write it down. And then here, we're not into G major anymore. So we've done some sort of modulation. That's a D minor triad. This here is a D major chord. So depending on how you want to explain that, and the melody here, sorry, is obviously minor now. The same shaped melody, but it's been put into a minor key. So we could say it's modulated to somewhere, or we could say it's changed tonalities from major to minor. So we're going to write that down and remember that, and then we'll move on to the next sort of part of the development. So you can see here that we've got a compositional device. We've got one note and we've got a changing harmony or changing melody across that. So hopefully you could remember that that is what a pedal point is. And if we analysed it, we can see that's a B. This is actually in treble clef. So that's a B. And this up here is like a B7. Or we could say it's a 5-7. And if we looked over here, we'd say this is E minor. So we could be super clever and say it's a pedal point in the relative minor, something like that. Let's put that into the question now. Okay, so this is where I still would write some notes on scrap paper if I was trying to answer this question well. And the reason I do that is because I've got to hit some key points, don't I? I've got to say it was in G major. How has the melody changed? Well, it's now in a minor tonality. I would need to say that the melody is in a minor tonality, not just that it's in a minor tonality, because I'm talking about the melody. And then I would also mention my pedal point. Maybe I'll go PP, like that. And I'd give the example that this is in B7. So I'd write my notes about what I'm going to say, and then I would try and write that down into a nice, coherent, clear sentence. If you just start writing straight away here, I guarantee you that's not going to be very readable at the end. Okay, done I think. What's next? Oh no, the marking key. Good, always have a little look at the marking key here, that's important. So you can see here, this top one, it's saying you need to be accurate using and correct. And so accurate almost always means an example. So if you just say that it uses pedal point and what do we say? Tonality or modulation, then you would get probably this one here, down here, or maybe even this one here. If you don't give some sort of specific examples, you're not going to be able to get these top two up here. Okay, that's it for this video. See you soon.